Hello, everybody. My name is Cory Rosen, and you're listening to The Story with Cory. Welcome to the new year, 2026. Today we have on a super awesome guest, Zachariah King. Born and raised between the ridges of Eschol, PA, Zachariah has been steeped in the heritage of Perry County country music from the very beginning, and we are going to learn a whole lot about it. Zach, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, tell me where music all kind of started for you. Where did your love for music come?
Uh, like you said, I was born in Eschol, PA.
What did I say, Eschol?
Eschol, it's all right.
Eschol.
They
I am not from here at all.
That's all right. They spell it like 3 different ways in town too.
Do they really?
So,
That's funny.
um, but I grew up going to the Eschol Brethren in Christ Church in my neighborhood, and there was a fellow there named Roscoe Reisinger. He was an old school country bluegrass picker, and him and a bunch of other characters kind of turned me on to kind of bluegrass jams and stuff, and that's where I started to play.
And so more so by ear than by lessons?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so from there, where do you go?
From there, I played a lot just at churches and church events and had little jams at his house and at little restaurants. They'd have little things in the corner, you know. About the time I was probably like 15, the guy Roscoe, he started telling my folks to take me over to this bar called Chicks, and that was in Landisburg. And there was a big music scene there. Every Wednesday night, they would just kind of hang out and play. There was no microphones or anything like that. You just kind of hoot and holler and
That's
play around the table, and
that's the fun part.
yeah, it was always a good time. So I still kind of miss those kind of times, but yeah, that's kind of what got it started for me. And then I met a couple other local guys in the music scene per se, and then that got me. I guess that got me right here.
So from there, at around 15 or so, when do you start like writing your own stuff, or do you start writing your own stuff, or just kind of just?
Uh, it wasn't too long after that. I think it was shortly after high school that I really started writing my own songs. I remember I had a job like on a local nursery farm, and I would kind of think things up while I was there and stuff, and working out in the field. But I don't know whatever pushed me to do that. I didn't know a lot of other people that were writing songs, I guess. But I knew I just kind of always knew I wanted to do that kind of thing, and you had to have at least one or two of your own every now and then.
Right, of course, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what consciously pushed me to do that, but I know shortly after that I started playing with a local band, and that was something that those guys were always into too, was trying to write songs and listening to a lot of the newer bands that were coming out, and folk bands and country bands, and getting inspired by those things too.
So what do you think was your inspiration for music way back when?
I mean, as a child growing up, I guess I would say my grandparents were a huge influence on me, and my parents as well. My parents always had opposite interests in music. My dad listened to a lot of country and rock, and my mom was more into kind of R&B and rap and soul kind of stuff, which gave me an eclectic mix of things at a young age. And as I grew up, my grandparents were always heavily into country music, and my grandfather was a truck driver, and my grandmother was just a huge music fan, and she always would. I mean, I always would remember when a new CD would come out or something, she would buy it right away and be listening to it, and that's kind of a lost art too, buying a whole CD and listening to it through. But I guess riding around with them just always had me into music. Like their love of music, it made me appreciate music, I guess, is what I would say.
And then when you started writing, what did you write about, or what were your favorite things, do you think?
Oh, you know, your girlfriend, or your late night out, or whatever I was doing at the time, which was usually not a good thing.
Sure.
And so, yeah, just, I mean, they say that what you do is what you what you write about, I guess. So at the time, that's kind of what I was writing about. And, currently and in the last few years, I've definitely taken myself out of it a little bit. And I'm not really writing from my own personal perspective per se. And that's kind of been a game changer, I guess, or a different approach to it.
What do you think? So from there to now, what do you think your biggest improvement has been in the writing and the playing, or what do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a pretty tough critic, so I hope there's a little improvement in there somewhere. I don't know. I think I just have become more aware and confident in who I am as a person. I've never been the best singer, and I've never been the best guitar player, but or the best writer, but I strive to be the best I can be, and that's all you can ever do,
So after 15, I assume, or after high school, you went to college, not for music.
Shortly after 15, yeah, I enrolled in university. Yeah, I did. I graduated high school, went to college for a little while, and I tried my hand at that, but I guess I didn't succeed.
Not so good at that. That's okay.
No, I never did follow through with that, but
that's okay. Not everybody has to go to college. College isn't for everybody.
But I learned a lot of things in college, and I learned a lot of things from a bunch of people that were from different places than I was, and that was important to me, and that was important to. I've always loved to travel, and seeing everyone's different perspectives of where they're from. It also made me appreciate where I came from and the things I know about. So that was definitely important, and I think everyone should experience something like that, whether it be college or just traveling or doing a job that takes you somewhere else that you're not familiar with, because it's real easy to get stuck in your own rut, I guess, your own perspective of your town or your city or whatever. But yeah, I'm grateful for that, because it turned me on to a lot of different things. And as far as music goes, I met a lot of great folks there that played music in college, and it just led me into all different places and people that I've become friends with and stayed friends with from all over the place.
So after that, you where were we at in your life at that point? After college.
I did quite a few things in my professional career, but I worked for the longest time in radio. Actually, I went to college for communication journalism, and I've always had an interest in broadcasting. Like I said, my grandparents are huge music fans, so we grew up listening to country gold radio in Carlisle. Old Ray Thomas and the Tradio on the Radio deal and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I didn't finish college, but I was fortunate enough I got an internship while I was there at this radio station, and it turned into a job.
Nice.
So I just said, to hell with it. I don't need this degree. I got the job. So I did that. I did that for a while, and I really did love it. I loved radio, and I had some great coworkers that we did a lot of cool things for the town, and I still kind of miss the camaraderie of that, and the camaraderie of like rallying a community around all the things that you guys know together. But COVID kind of put the kibosh on that, because I worked in I worked in the advertising end of it too, and marketing and sales. And so during COVID, a lot of people pulled their advertising and pulled their ad budgets. So it didn't really pan out with my paycheck. So I just had to move on and find something different. I could have probably went back to it, but a lot had changed too in that time. A lot of people too changed and moved on to different things. And so the same team wasn't there, and it was different. And so I decided to. Well, I tried to try my hand at music there for a while with just doing that, but you got to have something on the back end. So
yeah,
I've always worked for a living, so I've just found another job, and worked that for a while. Had a lot of odd jobs. I did some screen printing. Worked with Rockmill. I'm sure you know those guys. Worked with my friend Jan Nawa. I did some beer bottling up and down the East Coast, and I shoveled some shit at a mushroom farm. I did all kinds of things actually. Lindsay has a local grocery store, and she's been working really hard. She's got that in a good place, but at the time we were getting that off the ground, so I was helping her with whatever she needed to. And
a grocery store.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so always stay busy. We got plenty of irons in the fire all the time. But right now I work for a medical marijuana company, and that's a pretty good deal as a musician.
Seems
as
like
well.
A pretty good deal, yes.
And a decent career, you know. Not a bad place to be. So.
Yeah, it's crazy how much COVID changed everything.
Oh, it really,
overnight,
dude. It changed a lot of things.
I remember I was in college at the time, and we were set to go to Ireland on March 13th, the day when literally everything shut down, and we were told no, we can't go to Ireland, which, on one hand, is very upsetting because if we went to Ireland, we could have probably stayed there.
Yeah, you could have been hanging out for a while,
and that would have been nice. But on the other hand, probably would have gotten sick and tired of Ireland.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know. But we would have sang. Well, maybe not if we had went. But we were planning to sing at St. Patrick's Cathedral there.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It was, it would have been cool. That would have been cool. But no, we got stuck home instead.
Oh, so you never got to go.
Never got to go.
Oh man, well, you should make that happen.
Oh well, I mean it's college, you know. Yeah. It's and you know the entire world didn't at the time know what we were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I remember we were. We've always, promoted and helped put on shows as well, and we were putting on shows at this brewery at the time, and we had a couple bands that were traveling in from out of town that were calling us because their other tour dates were canceled, and they weren't sure if we were canceling.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anything about it. I'm not a news watcher either, I guess. So, I was like, "Yeah, we're on." We're on. And then they called back a few days later, and they're like, "Yeah, the rest of our tour is blown, so we're not coming."
Sure.
And so we're like, okay, we'll just pivot and we'll put in we had a couple of local bands kind of play instead, and we marketed it as the Plague Party because everyone was freaking out about it's the plague, and we're like, what? It was. I mean, there were some crazy. That was probably not the brightest. Looking back, it's like, yeah, that was a little insensitive, but at the time, it was, no one really knew what the hell was going on, and you just kind of were doing your thing until you realized, okay, we gotta shut this thing down, for a while.
It was definitely a crazy time because you were getting videos out of China of people literally falling over in the streets.
Yeah,
and then over here it was like what in the world is happening?
Yeah, it was different. It was definitely a different time. I live in the woods. I live in rural Perry County, western end, Tuscarora State Forest. So shout it out. But we went camping.
That's honestly the best thing you could do.
And it was cold because I remember it was like February or so, and I just remember we went up in the state forest and camped out for a week and had an RV and big bonfires, and friends were coming by because we were all off. And it was bittersweet, because obviously there was a lot of bad things happening to people all over the place, but
got to do some stuff.
But we did have some time to really, and that's a kind of, quite frankly, the thing that got me onto this whole project that I'm on now, and archiving the history that I'm doing, is because at the time I had so much time on my hands that I was spending it hiking with my friends. We are all into history. We were looking up old things in these history books about the county. And we would just find these cool things in the book, and we'd be like, well, let's go find that, see if it's still around. And we'd, Some of it would be, in a pretty hard place to get to. So then you'd start knocking on doors and saying, hey, we're looking for this kind of thing, and maybe some old timer would come to the door and like they would get excited about the fact that someone was looking for these things because someone hadn't knocked on their door in 50 years asking about the thing that they maybe them and only a couple of neighbors know is just over the hill from their house. And there was always instances like that. So you met cool people, and it kind of was it was a bad time for doing that kind of thing too. I mean, obviously meeting up with people and stuff, but it also kind of restored my faith in humanity too, where you can just kind of walk up and knock on a stranger's door and
it'll be civil.
Say, hey man, I heard about something in your backyard. Could I check it out? And they're like, yeah, man, it's like glad somebody came by to check it out. It's like that's cool. So yeah, that kind of a lot of that free time really turned into this because I started buying records. I started collecting more. I always did collect them, but I didn't know much. I didn't know there were artists. I didn't know there were people that were writing songs about Perry County. I didn't know there were songs that, like, there's people that wrote songs about York County. There was a very popular record label in York County called Renko Records. And a lot of the artists that I've collected are on Renko Records. Thanks to Andy Reynolds. He was a fellow that was out in this area. He was from Kansas City, I believe, moved out here, started the record label. He was kind of the businessman of it all, and if you had a song to sing, you could go to him and cut it. You could go to Baldwin Recording Studios in Mechanicsburg, and you could cut a record there. It wasn't too far off. If you knew somebody that had the equipment at their house, they could run you off a lathe cut record at their house. At the time, the 45 record really was a prevalent medium, and so all these records I started collecting during COVID, and then I met all these other people that collect records, and they collect different things. So it's like they know I'm looking for Pennsylvania country music. They're like, man, I got a ton of that because it's not what I collect, but it's what comes in, when I buy big lots and stuff. So I was lucking out too, where it seemed like not a lot of people were collecting the things that I was looking for. So people would be like, hey, man, I got this cool record I want to give you. It's this guy from Pennsylvania, or it's this guy from York County or whatever. And like just the other day, this guy passed, John Stankovic. He was Stanky in the Pennsylvania Coal Miners Polka Band. He was from Luzerne County, which is where my family's originally from. But his records are incredible, man. He just did his thing. He did polka music to the best. He rocked it out. Not a lot of people know about him, but he played all over the world with his polka band. Like, they were that popular. And yeah, he passed away the other day. And although I saw a few things online and stuff about it, I listened to like 7 of his records that night in tribute. And that kind of thing is just by the wayside. I don't know. I could ramble on about this forever, but
that's the point. It's a good history lesson.
Yeah, I kind of really have become fascinated with the ties. There's a line in the song, the Perry County Waltz, that I'm talking about here, where I say, the roots run deep like the people you meet, and their legends are everlasting like the flow of the creek. And to me, that is Perry County. I mean, you could be at the local gas station getting a little sandwich to go, strike up a conversation with some old timer there over a pack of mustard, and next thing you know, you're learning about this dude whose family has been there for 250 years, and they've been farming the same plot of land for that whole time. They might have sold a chunk or two off to his brother so he could build a house. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's like some of these people have really been here for a long time, for generations, and other than them preserving their own history, there's not anyone really on the outside doing that. Not since, there was a historical boom in like the 20s and 30s where people were writing all these books that we're using today, talking about the things that happened in the 1800s.
Right.
But from the 70s till now, there's also been a lot of stuff that's kind of lost, and a lot of that is this music.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, like these guys that were putting this music out, the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even was Wada Guy Smith. I think they were from like the 90s maybe. But man, there's just so much of it out there, and like somebody's got to archive it, somebody's got to preserve it, at least to make it available. Not everybody can go out and spend 3 hours in a freezing cold garage where someone has 10,000 records hoarded into it, like I do, and sift out all these records. Somebody's got to do that, so that way you can digitize them, put them online, put them on YouTube where other people can listen to them. I don't ever care about I don't want to make money off of this. I don't want to make money off of somebody else's
preserve history
material. I want to preserve their material for someone else to be inspired by, because I've been inspired by it myself, and if I'm inspired by it, I'm sure somebody else would be as well. And that's all this record is, really, just a.
And this is a 45, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a 45, yeah, 45 RPM record.
That is awesome.
And that's the project, is literally just me writing a love letter to my own county, a tribute to all the people that came before me, writing music, creating art. This artwork was done by a local artist in our county, and Scotty Brown. And like I said, the song The Blue Juniata is a historical song from 1841. And
let's talk about that one, because you were telling me a little bit about it before the show. Let's talk about that one, and then we'll play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Blue Juniata is a song written in 1841 by Marion Dick Sullivan. She is a woman from Boscawen, New Hampshire. I knew I'd butcher that. Boscawen, New Hampshire is where she was born. Her final resting place is in Brookline, Massachusetts, about an hour away from Westboro, about an hour outside of Boston. She traveled with her husband. Well, she traveled to meet up with her husband, who was already in Ohio at the time. She traveled through the Juniata River Valley, which starts at the junction of the Juniata River and the Susquehanna River at Duncannon, if anyone's familiar with that area, right? The Clarks Ferry Bridge. From there, the Juniata River follows up into Huntington, PA, all the way past, I think, Bedford and all those places. But anyway, she traveled through, at the time, it would have been Perry County. It was established in 1820. So shortly after that, she traveled through the area. They were on a canal boat. We know all of this information because her daughter, who was a prominent children's author, she wrote to a Boston newspaper in 1881 telling the story of how her mother wrote the song. She starts the article off with saying, 40 years ago, everyone knew the song, The Blue Juniata. It was sang everywhere. It was a favorite of General Sherman, who was a Civil War, Northern Civil War general. He was famous for his March to the Sea.
Yep.
He burned the South to the ground. That was his MO.
Yeah.
And he, just like today, you would have been like putting your AirPods in, getting hyped up. You're about to burn it down. Well, General Sherman, he had the Blue Juniata fired up on a live band, and that was his hype song. That was his morale song for his men. And there's a recorded journal you can find online where General Sherman actually requested a band come to his tent at the evening before he went to bed, and he had them play that song some 30-some times.
That's great.
Until he could fall asleep.
That's so cool.
And that was his deal. Not to get sidetracked, but Wrightsville, was prominent in the Civil War. They burned the bridge crossing the Susquehanna, and all that kind of stuff.
We're in Columbia, by the way.
This is Columbia. Yeah. Okay, well, close enough.
Yeah, well, Wrightsville just literally across the bridge.
Yeah, but yeah, so that kind of thing was happening down there, up here, all around. General Sherman.
Same area,
yeah, General Sherman was the king of doing that kind of thing.
Yes.
He was he loved to burn. The character is a Native American woman named Alpharetta. The historians believe that the name Alpharetta was created to rhyme with the word Juniata, because obviously there ain't a whole lot out there to pull from. In the state of Georgia, there is a city named Alpharetta, Georgia, and they believe the city is named from the character of the song, The Blue Juniata. And we know who brought the song there? General Sherman. So that is just a little crazy tidbit. That's just a side piece of this song.
So back to the story.
So Marion's daughter writes in the newspaper 40 years ago, everyone knew this song. It was popular in the Civil War and beyond. It became a parlor song. Mark Twain mentions it in his books. Laura Ingalls Wilder mentions it in the Little House on the Prairie books as being one of her favorites that her mother would sing. The song was everywhere. Like every thing in passages of time, it started to fade off. There were no recordings of this song at the time. This was merely a sheet music parlor song. You know, you either knew it or you didn't. Like, it wasn't like you could hear it on the radio. There was no such thing. There were no records. So fast forward, they're on the canal trip. They're riding the boat on the Pennsylvania Canal, the Juniata section along the Juniata River. A canal, in case you don't know, is just a little trough next to the river that they control the flow of the water, and that's how they moved boats and people and all kinds of things. They used mules to pull them up and down the tow paths. Anyway, the boat strikes a rock. This is all in the newspaper story. I'm not making this up. The boat strikes a rock. They cannot go on any further. They wake up in the morning. The boat's flooded. They're sleeping in little bunk beds and stuff within the boat. You can find old photos online of what these boats look like. They were kind of elaborate. The passenger boats. Takes on water. They have to get out. They have to take a carriage. It says in the book or in the newspaper that they took a rather dilapidated carriage the rest of the way through the Juniata River Valley. I'm assuming they went, because they were going to Ohio, I'm assuming they went all the way to the end, to the headwaters, and continued on to Pittsburgh, and so on and so forth. I'm assuming, but there's no definitive outline of how far they traveled. But anyway, it says that under these circumstances, riding on the carriage, that family were overtaken with the beauty of the Juniata River and its surrounding areas, in which she was inspired to write the song, The Blue Juniata. Obviously, Juniata is a Native American word. There's all kinds of Native American inspiration in the song. And there's a lot of Native American history all along that edge of the river. So it's not surprising that that's where the subject for her material came from. It's interesting. We've always been told that there were salmon in the Juniata River and all kinds of things like that. In the original lyrics of her song, she mentions antelope and it kind of gives you a very wild look at what it could have been like back then. Things were just a lot different, and the scenery was it was changed a lot too, because you think back then too, they were clear cutting everything.
Sure, yep.
So you could really see up and down the river. You could really see up and down the canal. It's not like today when you're down along the railroad tracks, it's all wooded and everything. It wasn't like that. It was very clear, very open, very picturesque. You can find old drawings very similar to like that style of what the Juniata River looked like, especially in Huntington and like major areas back in the day. And it's just, to me, it was just such an incredibly inspiring song. I was, like I said, inspired by all these Perry County artists and local artists in the 60s who were writing songs about Perry County and writing songs about the Rockville Bridge and writing songs about the Susquehanna River and just these local themes that were really cool and inspiring to me because I'm from these areas.
Sure.
But to know that someone was doing it 150 years before those people even were a figment of someone's imagination just sent me over the edge. It was like, whoa, this is huge. And what was even crazier to me is that I never really had heard anyone talk about this. I know that there's like the Clark's Ferry Tavern establishment in Duncannon, which does a lot to preserve the Juniata River Valley history. And I know the Juniata County Historical Society does a fantastic job of keeping records and promoting the history of their area and the Juniata River. But for whatever reason, I never seen or heard a lot about this woman or her song. So when I started poking around about it, I kind of wasn't getting a whole lot of traction. I mean, I had to buy the original 1881 newspaper. It took me a long time to find it, but I did find it, and I had to buy a copy of it to read the article myself. I could find pieces of it,
sure,
and I could find people's inferences they were making based off of the fact that they had read it themselves, and then they were putting it out. But I couldn't find Annie Moore, which is her daughter. I could not find Annie Moore's words. I wanted her depiction of it. So I had to find that newspaper, which sent me on this long, I mean, hell, I hadn't even recorded the song yet. I just was into it. And it just, it has overcome my life, really, the fascination of it. But really the icing on the cake was when I decided to record the song, and when I decided, you know, I was going to do this record and I was going to put it out like this. We decided to go to Brookline, Massachusetts to visit Marion's grave because, like I said, I'm not doing this to make money off of anyone's thing or anything like that. I'm just trying to preserve the history and put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever we got there, I was hoping to, you know, kind of put it out in the wind and say, you know, thanks, Marion, for your contributions. And I hope we can, you know, keep this song in prevalence and keep this song, you know, out there for people to see and hear. And when we get there, there was no headstone. And so we were just kind of like bummed, like to know that this woman, which I don't know if I've said this yet, but Marion is considered the first commercially successful female songwriter, first commercially successful hit songwriter in the United States of America.
Yeah.
The first one. Her sheet music sold more sheet music, and she had other songs too that were popular and renowned, but this was the one. This was like her one-hit wonder kind of deal. And she was a prominent music teacher as well in Brookline, supported herself, giving music lessons. Her husband got sick and never did. He's not buried in Brookline next to her. He's not buried with the children. They're all there. He's not. I'm not sure. We're still hunting him down. But Marion's there. Now the Brookline Cemetery, the old burial ground, we've worked with the group there, Lisa Farber and Annie Coles. They've been great resources, and they've helped us locate Marion's headstone. It was stuck in a shed for 30-some years. It broke off, and no one knew who she was.
Oh, okay.
No one knew the significance of her life. No one knew her contributions to history. No one knew about her song. And to me, it's just like, this is a travesty. Like, I just was like, at that point, I was like, I don't even care about like the record. I just need to get this lady recognized,
right,
you know, for what she did. So I actually, good Christmas present this year, I got a letter from the old burial ground saying that they do have the funds ready and that Marion's headstone will be set soon in the next few months. And fitting because 2026 is America's 250th celebration. So I'm just, again, I just feel grateful to have stumbled upon this rock, flipped this stone over, whatever the saying is. And I was curious enough to pull the thread this far. And I'm also proud of myself for not, because there were times, especially after we saw the headstone was missing, and I was having a tough time really getting in touch with someone that had interest in helping. It was frustrating. It was just frustrating to know that someone would wipe someone's slate like that and not have any condolences over it or anything, or what's the word for it? Remorse for it. But at the end of the day, I think it's a happy ending where we're going to have the stone reset. I hope to have Marion recognized in some kind of either formal setting or some kind of newsletter or some kind of thing in the city of Brookline to let them know, like, hey, you guys have this woman here in your graveyard. You have her family here. They're all here together except for John, unfortunately. But then also back home here in Perry County, I hope to establish some kind of plaque or piece of acknowledgement in one of or both the Perry County Historical Society and Juniata County Historical Society, one of their properties or one of their entities along the river or something to acknowledge that there was a woman here 150 years ago that wrote a song about this exact place that we're standing at that made an incredible impact on the development of our country at the time.
Well, let's take a listen.
Yeah, let's listen to it.
This is your rendition of the Blue Juniata, written about 150 years ago.
Yep, written by Marion Dick Sullivan.
Strong and true as arrows are in his painted quiver. Swiftly goes his light canoe down the rapid river. Soft and low he speaks to her, then his war cry sounding brings his voice so thunder loud, ridge to ridge resounding. Sings the native girl, cried out the rider, where sweep the waters of the blue Juniata. Fleeting years have worn away, voice of our still sweeps the river on the blue Juniata.
And that was Blue Juniata.
Hope you like it.
I hope you like it. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly because I am.
Yeah, you got it. Juniata.
Juniata.
Yeah.
Well, up next is your Perry County Waltz, which is an original that you wrote.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Like I said, I've been inspired by all these folks from Perry County. Specifically, there's a guy named Bill Fleischer who was a Battle of the Bulge World War II veteran.
Really?
He Purple Heart recipient.
It's one of my favorite battles to look at.
Well, he was in the midst of her, I guess. I never met Bill. He passed away. But he probably wrote many songs, but he released at least 5 45s that I know of and 1 cassette. A lot of them being songs about areas in Perry County or entities, one being the Old Iron Horse, which talks about the railroad line that went from Newport all the way to New Germantown. He also wrote one about the Rockville Bridge, the largest stone arch bridge across the Susquehanna River from Marysville to Rockville. He also wrote Perry County, USA, Perry County Proud, the Bluebirds Sing in Perry County. I mean, this dude was all about it. And, I heard that stuff and I thought, man, this guy's like really
patriotic for Perry County.
He is, yeah. He's like stoked. And like, honestly, the fact that nobody made his song Perry County Proud the county anthem yet, like, is kind of a disservice.
That's kind of a silly.
Yeah, because it's literally the greatest song ever written about Perry County. And I was hearing that kind of stuff, and it was just cool to me. And I listened to this podcast called Dollar Country, and it's just this guy who archives all kinds of old country music from all over the United States and beyond. But anyway, he played this record, and it was a waltz record. And at the beginning of it, the artist was complaining. He said, there's a waltz about this. There's an Arkansas waltz and a Tennessee waltz and a waltz of this, a waltz for that. But there's no such thing as a whatever, wherever he was from. He was complaining that he didn't have a waltz for his thing. And I thought, yeah.
There's something to that.
That's what I need. I need a waltz for our thing. And so I just thought up that idea of the Perry County Waltz and what it would look like if you were, kind of waltzing across the county and dancing across the fields to the Perry County Waltz. And that concept kind of stuck with me for a little bit. And like I said, we were already hiking all over the place, and we used a couple books, H. Haynes' History of Perry County and Silas Wright's History of Perry County, Lewis the Robber Confessions and Caves, and all these old history books that are kind of about our area. We were using those books to go find things, and so every time I would go to a place, like the Poor Man's Spring is a place I mention in the song, which also is a place that's tied to Marion Dick Sullivan, loosely. I sing about her, and when I went to that place, I just I take what inspires me about the history, what inspires me about the natural beauty of the area, and I just kind of would scribble that down, or whatever, whenever I was coming up with it, or maybe I wouldn't come up with it until after I left, and I would just think about being there and what it felt like being there, what it could have felt like being there years ago. And each little verse of the song is a specific place in Perry County. It starts in New Germantown at the head of the Sherman's Creek. It dances you down to where the two rivers meet, which is the junction of Susquehanna and Juniata rivers. It talks about the box huckleberry, which is one of the oldest living plants in the world, but one of the oldest colonies of that plant is in Perry County. I talk about the Poor Man's Spring, like I mentioned. I talk about Bower Mountain and the old tanneries in the Tuscarora State Forest where I grew up, or where I live now, not where I grew up, but I feel very connected to it because I've been spending a lot of time there ever since I was a kid. And I also mentioned the tavern, which is Chick's, the bar that I learned to play music at. I've been hanging out in this valley since I was like 15 years old, so it's only fitting that I live there now.
Sure.
But the whole song is just kind of like a dance from one end of the county to the other. Inspired by Bill Fleischer, inspired by Sped and Vic, inspired by Ellis Coon, a little bit inspired by York County, Andy Reynolds. Like I said, Andy Reynolds, if it weren't for Renko Records, Ellis Coon, probably wouldn't have been able to put out. He did a lot of stuff in Tennessee, but he did a lot of stuff on Renko too. So that was a guy from Louisville, just up the road from me. And his songs are great. They're hilarious. And he was a hell of a fiddle player. But those songs and those people those places. If you're from Perry County, I really encourage you to, if you dig this kind of thing, to listen to the song and with intent and really kind of
dissect it.
Yeah, dissect it, and it's not all straightforward what I'm talking about, but if you listen and you know a little bit about getting out on them back roads, and maybe you're an old timer and you've been there a time or two before, I hope this paints a pretty picture for you.
Well, let's take a listen to the Perry County Waltz.
Friendly, you're free to roam. The fields are filled with banner, a sweet song surrounds me. We dance across the county to the Perry County wall. From the headwaters of the Sherman's Creek, money ran out and the hills dug deep. Down in the valley where the two rivers meet, they'll be dancing and sway to an old familiar beat. We'll take a drink from a poor man's spring, and down by the river you can still hear her sing, the sweeping voice of wild Alpharetta along the towpath of the blue Juniata. Beneath the hemlock and the hickory creeps the box huckleberry, and mallow grows around an old cemetery. The roots run deep like the people you meet, the legends everlasting like the flow of a creek. Over the Bower Mountain into Henry's Valley, the Laurel Run carries you in. Past the tannery to the tavern, the old familiar patterns welcome me back home again. Well, take me back to the hills of home. Folks are all friendly, you're free to roam. The fields are filled with battle, the sweet song surrounds me. We'll dance across the valley to the Perry County wall. We'll dance across the county to the Perry County wall.
And that was Perry County Waltz. So, where can people find you at?
You can find me in Perry County, Pennsylvania.
Amen. No, I really like that you have a quote here from Bill Fleischer. Pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Fleischer says, God must have loved old Perry County by the presence of his beauty in nature. May we all join hands to preserve it like it was in the past for the future. I assume that's from his song.
That is from Perry County Proud. Yes.
That's such a cool line.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
That's one of the best. And that's why I think I resonated with his stuff the most, is because, you know, like he said, he's singing about it and he's all about it and he's rocking on the accordion or whatever he was doing. But the only reason he was doing it is to let us know how important
cool
it
Perry
was.
County was, yeah.
And to let us know, like, we need to save this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We need to preserve this for future generations. And so that's, you know, that's kind of the mission I'm on right now. That's what I want. I want people to feel that same way about their hometown. Even.
Yeah.
Even
no.
not my.
Yeah.
Not everybody lives in Perry County. So, but York County or wherever you live, there's a lot of history. And I encourage people to dig into their town and see what's around them.
I'll give you a little fun fact about where I grew up. I grew up in a place called Delmar, Delaware.
Okay.
It is called Delmar, Delaware because it is part Delaware and part Maryland.
Okay.
State.
Somebody had to do it.
Yeah, somebody had to do it. It's called the little town too great for just one state. Main Street is literally the state line.
That is awesome.
And so I went to elementary school on the Maryland side. I went to high school on the Delaware side. A little bit weird how the schooling system works.
Which side's smarter?
Well, that is a matter of opinion that I won't get into. I was born in the Delaware side, so I can imagine you would guess what I would say.
Yeah.
But I lived on both sides just because of the way my life went. And every Heritage Day, they would have a tug of war over state lines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so all the people from Delmar, Maryland, and all the people from Delmar, Delaware would get up and fight it out. And see which side won.
That's exactly the kind of community camaraderie I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, so it's a fun little history.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun thing to visit, to see.
It is. I can't remember when Heritage Day is, but it's a very cool little town. It's right by the railroad track, right by Salisbury, Maryland.
Yeah.
It's like one of the suburbs of them. It's only one traffic light in town. Was a big deal when they switched it up.
Yeah. Oh man, you sounds just like home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. It's small town America is one of the best places to be, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's just like I said, it's just
different pace of life.
It's a different pace of life. There's a lot of and it's a different pace of life now, but back then it wasn't always the case. There was a lot of industry that changed, and a lot of these towns were deprived of that industry, and that's what's made them into the quaint little places they are today. But back in the day, more often than not, every little community that we know of had something that was making them thrive.
Yep.
And that's where the history comes into play.
Well, people can find you at ZachariahAndrewKing.com. Is that what it is?
Yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on socials.
And it's spelled Zacharia, Andrew, as in, any other Andrew.
Yep.
King.com.
Yep. And yeah, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff.
We have one question from somebody watching. We have from Zoe Noble. What is your favorite song that you've ever written? And why?
That's a tough question. I wrote a song a couple years ago. It's called "Another Year, Another Beer," and that's fitting, I guess, for this time that we're in right here. But I also wrote it at the time. I wrote it based off of a line that a friend of mine said to me at the bar one night. He's an old timer, and he used to sit there, and I said, it was around the new year, and I said, "Hey John, what's new?" And he looked at me all gruff, and he said, "Another year, another beer." And I looked at him, and I said, "Man, that's a song, dude."
That is a song. If I've ever heard it, yeah.
And so I ended up going home, and I didn't necessarily write it about him, but I wrote it about all kinds of things and how the sentiment of another year, another beer how certain situations could bring you to say a thing like that. How you could be in a position to where that's the only thing you're really looking forward to.
There's all sorts of positions.
And, all sorts of positions, and good and bad.
Good and bad, yes.
And unfortunately, John passed on, but I think about him every time I hear it, and I never really thought about how much of that song was his. And now every time I hear it and I play it, I always say, "This is for my buddy John." So that's my favorite one.
Well, thank you, Zachariah, for coming on the show. This was a pleasure learning about some good PA history and Perry County history.
Yeah, of course.
The place I hope to call home, not Perry County. It's a little too far for me. But Lancaster and PA and all the places. I forgot my family has got a bit of a history here. From our grandmother ran up to Pittsburgh away with her second husband. A little bit of a scandal, from all the way from Texas.
Oh wow! Texas.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't mess with Texas.
No, and that's why she came up here to PA to get far away from whatever was going on. But thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah.
This show is brought to you by the Susquehanna River Creative Conspiracy over here in Columbia, PA. We have our open mics every Wednesday. No, sorry, it's been changed to Tuesdays. It was a recent change. Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Come here, hang out. It's a nice little space for podcasting. They have a venue over there. And then we have art spaces, a lounge. We do really cool stuff. Another thing we like to do is show off local films every now and then. We're going to get back into that. Yep, we take down the sound padding over there and just projector on the wall and show the local film industry that we have going on here. And all the way from that to, Mario Kart racing we have every now and then.
That's awesome.
So it's a nice little spot to hang out. And you can check them out at SRCC PA Art. That's 2 A's in there, paart.org, because this is a non-profit institution. And I hope you come check it out, because they've been great to me, and they'll be great to you too. With all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.